Hello everyone and welcome to my coloring corner. Today is Tips and Tricks Tuesday, and last week we talked about using stencils for a background. So I have done the background on this using this stencil. Now you don't have to use the whole stencil. As you can see, I didn't use all of the stencil. I just used these corner areas and these areas here, as well as this center medallion. So I have put together a background with that and some inks, and I have covered the whole page, and then I printed on top of it. And as you can see, I can rub it. The printing doesn't come off. I have gone over this over the skin with the white Prismacolor just to give a little bit of ability to blend colors and that sort of thing, and to make sure that you can color over the depth of color that was there. Now you're going to have difficulties, say for example, if I didn't do this here and I did it here and her hair was covered with the red, it would be more difficult to cover that with a different color. So if I was going to do red hair or orange hair, that would have been fine, which is what I'm going to do. But with doing hair or doing anything over top of a dark color, sometimes you see the dark color through it. You'll see a shadow of that color through it. So you have to be a little bit careful when you're doing that. Just going to check my microphone, make sure everything's running, because yeah, I don't want to make another video of nothing. I've done that too often. All right, so I'm going to switch you on over to the close-up camera, and we're going to color her skin. I am using Prismacolor pencils, and I'm going to start with the burnt ochre in the shadow areas. So I'm going to make sure that you're on camera just for the fun of it. And in her shadow areas, just going to put a little bit of this burnt ochre where her hair is covering her face. And it does lay down just perfectly fine right over top of the ink. Okay. And I'm just doing very, very light amounts of this burnt ochre. Of course, you can darken it later. It's always good to start off fairly light and then go in later with a little bit more darkness. Do apologize. Seem to be a very popular person today. Just going under her chin, make sure that I'm still in camera. And down here in her chest bone area. Under her clothes there. Where there's going to be a shadow from her arm. Down here, and of course I'm not on camera anymore, so as well as down here on her elbow. And down into her hand here. I didn't do the other hand yet, but I am going to get there. Following lines at the moment. And up into here. Now this blouse that she's wearing, and little half top there, is see-through, so we're going to make sure that we put the dark colors under her breasts here. And we'll make sure that we get the proper colors under for the tattoo as well. Alright, I'm going to turn it just a little bit, just so you can see. Now we're going to put a little bit of a shadow under her top, and down her side here as well, above her arm, and under her arm, and in her belly button. Like I said, I have covered this with the white pencil. You don't have to do that. I just wanted to make sure that it was going to cover. So you don't have to do that. So I'm just putting it up here on her shoulder, down here on her shoulder, down her neck, on her shoulder here as well. And up here. Just making sure I get all the creases of her hand in between the fingers and that sort of thing. Then down here on her waist and hip. Okay, and make sure we get a fairly dark area in her belly button. Okay, so that's just the start, the base coat, the first part of the shadows. Alright, now we're going to go back to her face, and we're going to take peach, and we're going to go into that burnt ochre with the peach, bring that color down, blend it out. There we go. Just taking that and bringing it out. Now I'm going to put this darker color just bringing it down, just filling in that shadow. Bringing up the shadow from here. And then down here. And I'm just going through and just bringing that shadow down a little bit further and into the curvature of her body. And of course this area here, it's important to get your dark colors into this area because that's what's going to show through the shirt, is the dark colors, because we're going to do the shirt red, so those dark colors are important because we're going to do it reds and oranges. maybe yellow. Might do it a light yellow, just so that the phoenix shows through it. Now this is a Scott Howden picture, and unfortunately I can't remember what book it's from because I have all of his PDFs and I have combined them all into one folder, so it makes it a little bit more difficult to locate the exact folder it's from, but I will look it up and post his Etsy store so you can purchase it if you want to. I'm just going through these areas here, making sure that that's dark because of the bird sitting on her hand. Making sure that her waistline is darker. Just have to remember, where things are on a body that are going to be shadowed and how much of a shadow there's going to be. Sometimes it all depends upon the direction of the light. And since this image is pretty much straight on, I'm just going to make sure that the shadows from the edges are darker than from the front. So as you can see, you can color right over top of the ink. The background is done now, so you don't have to worry about whether or not your background is going to match what you're coloring. You can match your coloring to your background, which makes it a little bit simpler, as long as you take into consideration when you're doing your background what your picture is. I wanted to color her with a lot of phoenix colors because of her phoenix here, as well as her tattoo, and from the ashes here tattooed on her arm, as well as the sun up here. So that told me the colors that I was going to use in this picture. So having that information made doing the background very simple. Now if I wanted to do it a water phoenix or something else, I would have done it in blues. Of course, keeping that lighter color coming into the center of the background and the paper, so that when I printed over top of it, it would be a light color here in the center where that the main part of the picture is going to be, if that makes sense. All right, and you may be able to hear my husband in the background. He is home under quarantine, so we don't know yet if he has COVID, but we're hoping that that's not the case. But he's staying home. He's staying home until tomorrow, and then he'll have his COVID test tomorrow, and that will determine whether or not he's going to be home for another 10 days. So hopefully it will come back negative. All right, so we've got her face done with the medium and the dark. Now we're going to go in with the light, and we're going to use light peach, one of the light colors, which is light peach. And once again, we're just going to go over top of everything, blending all those colors together. The great thing about Prismas is that they do blend together very, very nicely. And I'm not very good at noses, so her nose is not going to have the same kind of definition that most people would give it because I'm not good with noses. So I will color what the wonderful artist has put there, And that's pretty much it. If they have not drawn the nose all the way up, I'm not going to. So I'm just going right over top of everything else. If I find that I've washed it out too much, I'll just go back over it a little bit with the other colors until it's satisfactory to me. And I know I just did that with my hand. I am sorry, Evelyn. I have my brush here somewhere. There it is. There. There. I didn't do it with my hand. You didn't see that. But as you can see, you can definitely see the color over top of the yellow. The color is standing out more. And basically you just have to remember what colors you're going to be putting down in that area. Like if I had done this blue, I would definitely make sure that I went over any of the skin tone with the white to make sure there isn't a lot of dark blue areas. You can definitely put a blue tone in a skin tone, so that's not a big deal. But basically you just want to make sure that the color that you've got down will blend into your shadows or that sort of thing. If it's not going to blend in, that you go over it with a white. The white Prismacolor is great for that because it does cover up very, very well, and it is definitely a bright white. So it will remove more of the yellow or blue or whatever color you're going to use. It'll cover that up better than anything else. You can also use a white ink into the center where your picture is going to be. If you're going to do a full page spread, I wouldn't suggest this kind of method. But with something that's centered like this is right in the middle of the page, it does definitely make doing that blank background much easier. And this is, I do believe, light peach, number 927, if I didn't say so. And once again, I'm just going over the entire area, blending right into that peach as well as the brown ochre. And if I find that I'm covering up too much with the color, I will go over it again with a bit of the color that I've covered up too much of. But that's the great thing about Prismas, is they do blend together quite nicely. You can mush them together. Smoosh. They have this smoosh. Or as I say, mash. Because, Alright. Go up into here. Alright. Might have to sharpen this again. It's a lot of skin. She has a lot of skin. But as you can see, the skin tone itself is definitely very visible over top of that background. Now I'm not going into where the top is anymore because of the color that I want the top to be. I have done her breast area, and I will blend that out a little bit. And I may end up putting more in there as as I put on the color for the top, because that's going to be a yellow top, I think, or an orange. It's going to be a different color. Probably an orange because I don't want it to blend too much into the background. Okay. All right. So almost done with the lightest, well, not the lightest, but the lighter peach tone. All right, now we're going to go in with eggshell. Oh, try not to break it. And I'm just going to go into some areas that we want to be very light. And just blending all those things together. Okay. Now I want a little bit more of the shadow, so I'm just going to take a little bit more of that burnt ochre. I'm going to put that back in a little bit. Okay. And like I said, I will continue to doctor it and make sure that the areas that we want to be darker remain darker. And then we just go over it, blend it in. Blend that all together. So one thing I really like about this brand of pencil is that those hard lines are very easily blended in with a lighter color. You don't have to use a blender pencil. You can definitely just use a lighter color. Okay. Almost done with the skin tone. Just going to do the other side here. through and I'll make sure that those shadows are still showing shadowy. I don't want to spend the whole day doing skin tone with you, but I want to put the color on. Alright, so that's the skin tone done. Now we're going to do her top because it's fairly large, as well as is a technique that you would want to do for a translucent top. So I'm going to grab this one and this one and this one, I think. So I've got cadmium orange hue, poppy red, and neon orange. And those are the colors that we're going to use. First we're going to use poppy red. And just in the shadow areas. And down into the thicker areas. Alright. Alright. So once again, I'm just using the poppy red in these deeper areas because the neckline and that sort of thing is a little bit see-through, but it's not a lot see-through. So we want those areas to be darker because of the folds in the clothing. Okay. Same with down this edge here. There's going to be a fold there. Alright. And then we're going to take our neon orange and we're just going to pull in from that. Now I'm going to try this orange, and I might stick with this orange on the edge and the neon orange in the middle. Yeah, I'm going to stick with this orange on the edge and the neon in the middle because the neon's lighter. This has got a little bit more of that red in it. So I'm just extending out those shadow areas. Like where those seams are. And when I do the cover, because of the fact that the bird and that sort of thing is underneath, I'm going to cover the majority of it, but I'm going to go very lightly over that area. So I'm going to do this area darker. I'm going to blend that in to the darker stuff. And then when I come down here, I'm not going to go right over top of that feather because that's going to stand out more because it's going to be a different color. But I will go over it with a little bit of the orange after I color it. All right. So once again, you can definitely tell that going over top of the background is something that you can definitely do with colored pencils. You can also do this with markers. I have not used markers over top of ink. I would be cautious of that. You know, do a test spot first, but it may blend into the ink that's there and change the color a little bit. I think once you've let it dry completely, you may not have that problem. And I would definitely let it dry completely before going over it. Just going to mash it into that a little bit. And as you can see here where her shirt is not over top of her body, you can see the darkness of her shirt. Where her skin is, you can see the lightness of her skin through the shirt. Okay. Now that part's done. So we're going to do the bird here, and we're going to take a couple of different colors for the bird so that you can see how I do the shirt over top of the bird. So I'm going to turn my stuff so I can grab the right colors here. So I want, I think it's this one. Crimson red. Crimson Lake. Where are you going? Yeah, they're running away. They're going, no, don't use me, I'm short. Lemon yellow. And a little bit of jasmine, I think. No, yellowed orange. Okay, so these are the colors that we're going to use in the Phoenix. And first we're going to use the Crimson Lake. I've got my sharpener here, make it all nice and sharp. And we're going to do the shadowy areas and the tops of the feathers, where those feathers join together, that sort of thing. This feather area here is going to be yellow, and this is going to go into orange. Ah, there goes the tip. I broke the tip. I gotta try to be more careful. And this is going to be red into yellow into orange. But I'm just going to do the edges. very lightly so that when I do the combination, it will blend all together. Alright, and down into the feathers. And around his talons. Just making sure I get the tops of those feathers with the dark color. Getting into those shadow areas. Now that area right here should be a little more peach because that's part of her skin. Alright, so now we're going to take our rouge, crimson red, and we're going to start at the base here of the feathers. I'm just putting in a fairly light layer. Because we'll be building off of that. As I get closer to the edges, I'm going to go a little bit heavier because those edges are going to be that red and they're going to stay that red. Same with over here. Get that red color in there. Alright. We're going to do a little bit of red at the bottoms of these feathers. And the great thing about these colors is they blend together into, the same color. So if you take your red and your yellow, you're going to get orange. You take your red and your orange and you're going to get a deeper orange. So that's very helpful. Okay, now we're going to take our orange and we're just going to start down here. We're just going to feather it out into that red a little bit and just do the tips of these feathers. And then we're going to take our yellow and we're just going to blend that all together. And we're going to take our red, we're going to go back into that, bring that red back in. And we'll take a little bit of yellow and just spread that out a little bit. Make sure that you get your edges deep in red. Feather it in to the other feathers. because we want this area here to be orange. Just going to go over it one more time, make sure that we get that coverage. Now for the definition on the feathers, just go back in with the red. This is Crimson Lake. And the orange is yellow orange, and then the yellow of course is lemon yellow. I'm just going to go over that with the lemon yellow. Just brightening up that orange a little bit. And there we have the first wing. Now we're going to do the same thing on the other side. Just going to darken up that red area. Make sure it's nice and dark. Then we're going to take our orange and we're just going to blend into that red and do the bottom layer of the feathers. And a little bit more on here. And up here, I do believe. Alright, and then we're going to take our yellow. The yellow I'm going to come right across his chest there. Now just gently bringing that red into the orange. Making sure I'm doing a darker red at the base. Then we can go back into it with the orange. Close to the feathers there. And then we take our deep red. Make sure that we put that definition back in. If we want to, just to make it a little bit brighter on the orange, go around this area with the yellow. And then the head, we're going to take the orange, come down into that area. We'll take the red, come up into it. There we go. And then same with down here, we're going to bring that red down a little bit, making it very dark up in the shadow area. And lightening it up as I get into the body here. And then we'll take a little bit of the deep red, which is the Crimson Lake. Just getting it into the sides of that bird. And into the shadowy areas. Then we'll take a bit of the yellow orange. And bring it down there. Take a bit of the red, feather it down into the orange. And I know I probably just dropped my voice, so it's probably, you probably couldn't hear that. I don't know why I do that, but sometimes when I'm concentrating really hard, I have a tendency to drop my voice down to almost nothing. And I'm really sorry I do that. It's got to be frustrating, especially if you can't hear me. So I've just gone back and forth with that orange, the yellow, and a bit of this red in there to make that feather look like it's a fiery feather. I'm going to do the same thing with this feather here. Just going to come back into it with the Crimson Lake, the deeper red. Just gently go over top of it, and then I'm going to take the yellow and I'm going to go right over top of that and brighten up that yellow, that orange a little bit. Same with up in here. And I'll blend that in with the yellow. Now we're going to finish off the feathers here. So we're going to take the crimson red, not the Crimson Lake, but the crimson red. We're going to come in, we're going to put some dark area here. And we're just going to bring that down. And then we're going to add the orange, blend it into that red, and then we'll take the yellow, blend it into that orange, as well as the red. And we'll take the yellow and bring it down his feathers here. And then we'll take a little bit of this red to the edges. Into the yellow, turning it a little orange. And then take the orange and go into it. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go over top of that very, very lightly. Trying not to spread it into your shirt, but still make it look like the shirt is going over top of it. Like that. And then we're going to take the orange, we're going to go into here and take that red, go over it. And then we'll use the yellow. I have to sharpen the yellow. Basically, I'm just blending those colors together until it looks almost like it's the same color combination as a flame. So I'm going to go up in here and I'm going to bring that red down. Little flicks, bring it down into there. Alright, I'm going to switch you over to the main camera here so that you can see how we've covered that background. So instead of having this yellow on her skin as well as her, phoenix there, we were able to cover that up just using the pencil colored pencils, which is fantastic. It did really well, and I'm quite pleased with the way that it covered. You can also use your whites in areas that you want to add a little bit more highlight and that sort of thing. Don't use your fingers. So I want to have a highlight here on her nose, so I just use my white there, white here, a little bit more white here, that sort of thing. giving those highlights in those areas. Try not to go overboard with it. And that is how we have done this background. Now I will finish this tomorrow during Work in Progress Wednesday. So the tip of the day is to completely do your background before you print it. You can go over it with inks. This is just alcohol, or not alcohol, chalk ink from June 6, or also known as Luxury. It is a June 6 product. I used a stencil and a dauber. If you don't know what a dauber is, it is this wonderful little finger thing. You stick it on your finger and you go shh, and it's all done. It didn't take me very long, and of course I did make some mistakes, but it just adds to the background. And you can do this with anything. You can do this with a flower stencil. You can do this with a entire background stencil and then print over top of it. Just make sure that your colors that hit this area or the deepest area of your picture aren't covered with the heavier colors of your ink, so that you can get a good layer on top of them without them showing through too badly. All right, guys, I think that is it for today. I thank you all very much for joining me. I will be doing the next video for the hug of the day, so please stay tuned for that. I will be doing that with Prismacolor pencils because I have them out and on the desk. All right, guys, until next time, thank you all very much for watching. I hope you have a fantastic day. And of course, please stay tuned for the hug of the day. This will be finished on Work in Progress Wednesday tomorrow. Until next time, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. If you're not already a subscriber, hit that subscribe button. Make sure you ring the bell. Of course, I do put out at least one video every day of the week right now, including Sundays, for the hug of the day. Other than that, guys, remember to relax, color, and stay safe. Until next time, bye-bye for now. I couldn't find my mute thing for the microphone. All right, guys, bye-bye for now.